Oh, f3 check. Well, he is 2 pawns up. I should be able to draw. But where will I go? If I play king h2, then he plays f2 and he promotes on the next move. So can't do that. If I play king into f3, then he gives me a check and promotes the pawn. So no, can't do that either. And if I go here or here, he will again give me a check and promote the pawn. I think that leaves me with only king f2 to play. Well, I guess I can play it. Well, technically he's threatening to promote his pawn. So I think I'm forced to capture it. Okay, it's a check. He gave me his pawn. Let's go. I think it's a draw. Oh no, I lost my rook. Okay, that was his idea. But what kind of tactic even is this? Let me check in the game review. Okay, so here we are at the game review. And f3 is the best move. King f2 is also good. It says I should have taken. Okay, rook h1. One of the best moves. Yeah, it's the best move. That X-ray attack will win black a rook. X-ray attack? What? X-ray, yeah, here it is. X-ray attack chess. What is the difference between skewer and X-ray in chess? Huh? Now, what is a skewer? Let's search skewer. A long, thin, pointed piece of metal or wood that is pushed through pieces of meat, vegetables, etc. to hold them together while they're cooking. Huh? What is this? Why is my coach telling me about this? Well, don't worry guys. A skewer, in chess at least, is not a thin metal stick or a wooden stick used to hold pieces of food together. It is in fact one of the three main tactics in chess. The first one is the fork, the second one is the pin, and the third one is the skewer. Today's video is aimed at helping you master your overall understanding of the skewer, along with some extra exercises to take it to another level. Let's go. Hi guys, my name is Ishan, and in today's video, we will be thoroughly understanding and drilling some exercises on the topic of the skewer. If you haven't already, please do check out my videos which I have made on the first two main important tactics in chess, the pin and the fork. Well, let's get started. As you can see in this position, black is down a piece, but there is a way which he can more than compensate for his lost material. First, let me tell you about a skewer. A skewer is basically the opposite of a pin, in the sense that the piece of the greater value is usually in the front rather than at the back. So instead of being unable to move, as in a pin, in a skewer, the piece which is attacked at the front almost always has to move, leaving its fellow comrade behind vulnerable to capture. Both the pieces can also be of the same value. For example, a white bishop forking two black rooks on a diagonal. That's truly possible. And like a pin, a skewer can only be carried out by line moving pieces, which are queen, bishop, and rook, not the knight or king. In this position, black is down a piece, but he can take advantage of the exposed white king after the brilliant move bishop b4 check. The reason I like this move is because there are so many options for white, but all of them lead to his demise. Let's see all of them one by one. If he plays king d3, then the problem is queen into b3 is just checkmate. That's it. If he plays king c4, then we can play queen a6 check, and after king takes bishop, the queen hangs. That's sad. What else? Well, if he plays king c2, he's just delaying the end a bit. We can play rook c8 check first. And now again, if he plays king d3, then the problem is queen b3 is mate. So after rook c8, he will have to play queen c4. When after rook into c4, b into c4, queen into c4 check, black can only play king b1, and again we win the bishop. And I think this is enough to win. So that leaves us with king into b4. Now, black uses two important checks in order to get white's king in the perfect position to prepare a skewer. Queen a5 check, and now you will see the only option for white is to play king c4. And now again, like we had seen in the variation where he directly played king c4, we can here also play queen a6 check. And nothing more to say. Let's just move on. We can see a very common type of skewer, just like in my game. A similar skewer is going to happen here. White begins with the obvious a6, just push a pawn. Black almost has to play rook a4 because he has to stop the pawn. I don't think any other moves make sense. And now white plays the crafty a7. You can see what he's going after. If black takes rook a7, then the problem is check, and it's a skewer. So the a7 pawn is poisoned, but black isn't forced to take as white doesn't really have any threats. So what else can he do? Well, he has a couple of options. He can play rook a5 check to try and skewer us, but the problem is he can't really take our rook. Let's say after king d4, if he takes our rook, then we can successfully promote. So the whole purpose of rook a4 is defeated. And if he plays something like rook a6, then after rook a8, we again threaten to promote. And now he has to take when we can give a check with a beautiful skewer. So that doesn't work. If he plays something like king d7 to get his king closer to the pawn, we see a similar theme in action. Rook h8, rook a7, and rook h7. Similarly, for king d8, we can directly play rook h8 check and promote and be happy. So that leaves us with nothing for black. And in fact, he did resign in the actual game. Let's move on. So here, white does look like he's a piece up, but the problem is black's h3 pawn is pretty far advanced. I mean, it's only 2 squares away from promotion, while ours still has a really long way to go. And plus, black's king is menacingly close to our pawn. So he's right there. And if we give him enough time, he can successfully draw. Because the thing is, to win, we need to stop his pawn as well as promote our own pawn. And we don't need to let his pawn promote. I think the only way to do that is bishop d5. So you control this square. And technically, if you control the promotion square, he can never promote. But there are some complications because once you have stopped black's pawn, he will try to stop yours as well. So let's say he plays h2. And now you need to be very, very precise. The only correct move here is bishop h1. Obviously, black will try to chase our pawn, king e2, e4, king f2, e5, king g1, and we're just in time to move the bishop away, and we have secured the promotion of our pawn because whenever black promotes, we'll just take it. The reason why bishop h1 is the only move is because if you play something like bishop g2, and the problem is after king e2, e4, king f2, the bishop is attacked. So the bishop has to move, and when the bishop moves, black can just repeat again and again and again, and white can't make any progress because ultimately he has to stop the pawn, right? He can't go away from the diagonal. So that is why bishop h1 was the only correct move there. But that's not all. He doesn't have to play h2. Black can also try king e2 first. Here also the idea is a bit tricky because obviously we push our pawn, he comes ahead, we again push our pawn, he comes ahead. And now what? Because if we push our pawn, then he takes our bishop and we both queen, so it should be a draw. Whereas if we move our bishop, then he takes our pawn and again it's a draw because a lone bishop cannot win. So what should we do? Well, turns out we push because as you will see, at the end there is a beautiful skewer. In fact, our bishop on d5 was perfectly positioned to lure the black king on the diagonal where black's pawn will also promote, so that this skewer would be made possible. I hope you understand. Let's move on. So guys, this is the first puzzle of today. It's pretty easy. Black to play and try to find the answer. I'll give you a few seconds to pause the video. Well, I hope you found the answer. I mean, looking at the forcing moves, the first move that comes to my mind is g4 check. Obviously it's a fork, so white has to take. And now is actually the hard part. We play bishop h5 check, which is in fact a skewer, but not in the sense that you would expect it to be, because white does not have to let his queen hang, although that is the best move. So as you can see, the queen hangs in this variation. So white can also take the bishop, but the problem is it's mate, and we don't want that. It's a fairly easy puzzle. Moving on to a more difficult one. This one is also black to play. It's a bit of a king hunt, so little bit of calculation is needed. But overall, the idea is not that hard. Take a few seconds while I let you pause the video. I hope you found the answer. Well, the correct move is in fact knight c4, a fork. By the way, if you still don't know or are still confused about what forks and pins and all these things that I'm talking about are, please do check out my entire playlist on the tactical tricks here. Moving on. Knight c4 check. He has to take b takes c4. Don't want to hang a queen. And now rook a4 check. So we sacked two pieces. Mikhail Tal vibes. Obviously, if you play king b3, then queen a2 is mate. Can't do that. So again, he's pretty forced to take. Now we play queen a2 check. King b4 is forced. Queen b2 check. And now he has three options. He can either play king a5 and get mated with queen a3. Or he can play king a4 and hang his queen. Or he can play king c5, which allows us to carry out queen into f2. The final and decisive skewer. Because now the king can't move here or here due to our pawns. So the white queen is inevitably lost. Hope you understand. Let's move to the third puzzle. Yeah, this one was like really hard for me to solve as well. But I'll give you a hint. It's only 3 moves. But the first move itself is the hard one. So take your time. It's black to play. Pause the video and try to find the answer. Well, I hope you found the answer. And if you didn't, it's alright, because the correct answer is not that easy. And I do applaud you if you did. So the correct answer here is not queen s2 check, but knight d2. In fact, this is probably the last move I considered while calculating this puzzle, because ideally in a tactic you would think of checks, right? But here, in fact, the threat is the most powerful one. As you can see in the green arrow, the threat is simply to mate with queen h2. And there's not much white can do about it, because his rooks are very awkwardly positioned. They're not supporting each other. And if you move any rook to the h file, the black queen can just capture it and should be game over. So the only real move left to consider is queen d2. And after queen s2 check, wherever the king moves, we take the queen. The point is, if you play directly queen h2, then the king can go to f1, not to f3, when in fact knight d4 is a fork, but f1. And now whatever you do, I mean, you can give a check, but he'll move. And in fact, his rooks are now supporting each other. His king is supporting the queen. He has no problems. In fact, he's an exchange up. So now it's black who should be worried. So this doesn't work. So we had to move the queen a bit further away from the king so that the king couldn't support. Hope you understand, guys. Let's move on. This one is a bit of a tough one because it's not evident as a tactic, but the very fact that you need some endgame knowledge to solve this is also what's part of its toughness. So it's white to play. Pause the video and try to find the answer. Well, I hope you did try though. The correct move is in fact b5. So the point is, white can't win without his king. So that's exactly what he's trying to do. He's trying to get his king through by force. Obviously, cb5 is forced, I guess. There's not much to consider. Because if you move, let's say move here, then the problem is I can just play b6, b7, b8 queen. And that's it. So he has to take when we play king b4. Logically, we attack the pawn. We're threatening to take it. And so any logical player would play c6, right? That's where our tactic comes in. Now you see the 7th rank has been cleared up. And now we can play rook h8 with the idea of promoting. So black has to take a7. Now rook h7 check. And it's a skewer. And for those of you who are asking why did black have to play c6, let's take this variation. Let's say if he plays rook a2, king takes d4, king c4, maybe rook a6 takes rook a4. The point is white can just win both black pawns, as you can see. And now it's not much of a game, is it? So that was that. Let's move on to the fifth puzzle. In this puzzle, we can see that white has 3 pieces and he needs to maintain at least 2 of them, or 2 more than black, to maintain his winning advantage. White to play, pause the video and try to find the answer. The correct answer is in fact knight c7. When black, if he moves his bishop, then we can move our bishop to safety and white is winning. So the only move left to consider is g5 check. Now it's important that you play king h3 so as to not let him capture f4 with check. Obviously now black would want to save his bishop while capturing ours. So to do that, he has to move his bishop with a tempo. Bishop f1 check is the logical move that comes to mind. We play the sort of oxymoronical king g3. Not the first move you would think, right? Because you're allowing him to capture with check. But the point is, after king f2, the bishop is trapped. Because obviously the bishop can't go to a6, b5 or c4 because of the knight and this bishop. But it can go to d3 and h3, right? The point is, if you play bishop here, then this is a skewer. And if you play it here, then this is a skewer. So white wins. Moving on to the next puzzle. In this position, white manages to trap black's queen. White to play, pause the video and try to find the answer. The correct answer is rook a4, when there are quite a few options for black. So let's go through all of them. If he takes queen a4, then bishop e8 is a skewer. If he plays queen d5, then knight b4 is a fork. If he plays queen b3, then knight d4 is a fork. And if he plays queen e6, then rook a6 is a fork. So that leaves only queen g8. Now we play again rook a8. So we're like, just take it, take my rook. Which is pretty funny, obviously. Okay, if you play queen c4, rook c8 is a skewer. If you play queen a8, then bishop f3 is a skewer. So all the other moves we had already covered. So that leaves only queen h7. And now we finally trap the queen with bishop g6, when after queen g6, we skewer. A lot of skewers. So let's just go to the bonus puzzle for today. So this, guys, is the bonus puzzle. It's pretty hard in the fact that it's an endgame study. So the only hint I can give you that the first move is usually not a forcing move in these kind of puzzles. Good luck. And I'll discuss the answer of this in the next video. So let's discuss the answer of the bonus puzzle from the previous video. Here you can see black pawns are menacing, so we must do something fast. Knight g2 check comes to mind. Now after king g4, the obvious knight e3 and knight takes c2, rook c5 should be winning, because we take c2, we take h2 and it's a win. But if he plays to the third rank, either king g3, king h3, the same refutation for both moves, then white's best is a draw. Now we play rook a1, obviously black plays b2 to promote his pawn. And now we play the tricky knight e1. The point is, if he takes our rook, then it's a stalemate. So he can't do that. And let's say he takes to something like a knight maybe, then we can take this. And in fact, it's a stalemate again. Now if black promotes to a queen on the c1 square, then after rook into c1, b into c1 knight, white can again play knight f3 and capture the h2 pawn with a draw. So black's only try left is to promote to a queen on b1. After b1 equals queen, rook into b1, if black takes to promote to a queen or a rook, again it's a stalemate because the knight will be pinned. So his only option is to promote to a bishop. After c takes b1 promotes to bishop, we can play again knight f3, threatening to capture the h2 pawn. And now, in order to prevent us from capturing the pawn, black will have to play bishop e4. But as you can see, the knight is now again pinned and it's again a stalemate. That's it for today, guys. Please make sure to like and subscribe. Do comment below your favorite puzzle and share this video with your friends. Till then, I'll see you in the next video. Bye.